name is Holly and welcome. What we're going to talk about today is how to modify a couple of exercises. If you don't have dumbbells and you're taking a class that the instructor is using dumbbells and all you have are bands. So right here I have two of the most common types of bands used, just the tubes that are tied together into a loop. And then also the lower body bands. These are traditionally called like the lower body bands or even like a loop. So let's talk about some ways that you can modify the most popular exercises in order to make it work for you. Okay, so first and foremost, the bicep curl. Bicep curl, what you could do if you have the longer band is you can take it right underneath your feet and execute the curl just like that, okay? Of course, if you're doing singles, you can do one arm. If it's not quite tight enough, you can choke up on the band. See that? So you have a little bit more gap here. And that's how you create more resistance. Instead of having to go up in weight, you would create more resistance that way. Now let's pretend for a moment that all you have are these little guys. You can also do a bicep curl by simply placing the loop in the opposite hand and then pulling up. And that is how you can execute your curls. Of course, if the instructor is doing both arms, then you can just alternate just like that. Pretty simple, right? Pretty simple. Now let's talk about triceps. Tricep extensions. Okay, so you have a couple options here. Whenever doing triceps, there's lots of different ways, right? So the instructor could be doing a tricep kickback. So let me show you that one first. Good modification for tricep kickback is to take the loop in the hand and then kick it straight back, just like that. Of course, if you're doing both hands, you can also execute that tricep kickback with both arms, with the band. Another option, same idea holds true. If you have the small one, you can hold in one hand and kick back with the opposite hand. So depending on how strong that loop is, you might have to go a little bit closer. This one's pretty strong, so I can't hold it way out here, but you determine your intensity based on how far you have to go there, all right? So that's another option that you can do. So anytime you're working triceps, doesn't matter if the instructor is down on the ground, if they're using handheld weights, if they're doing kickbacks here, if they're doing overhead, you can definitely do it like that. All right, so let's talk about chest. Chest press and or chest fly. I'm going to show you a great way to modify for that. And you don't even have to get on the ground. That's cool. So you got the longer bands. You can go here, chest press, straight out in front of you, right? Straight out in front of you. Boom. Also, of course, you have chest fly. You don't even have to get down. Now, of course, you can get down on the ground, especially if the instructor is doing a lower body exercise at the same time. But basically what you're doing is you're just wrapping that longer band around you and doing those chest flies or the chest press. Now, here's another modification, but it's actually much harder. Not including the band at all, but say the instructor is doing chest and you only have one of these tiny bands and it is way too much for you to get it all the way around the back, then my recommendation for you is to do a push-up. Here are a couple modifications for push-ups. So this might be helpful for some of you. Now, traditionally, a push-up is done from a full plank position, all right? So your hips are down, nice and low. Now, modification number one is to bring those knees to the floor. So whenever you do that push-up, the knees are down, the chest comes down, you press straight up. Now, if you need like an in-between, so maybe the full push-up is too challenging, but the push-up on the knees is kind of too easy, then there is an in-between step. Did you know that? So let me show you. It is one knee down. So you start in that full plank position, one knee down, push up. And that kind of makes up the difference. Of course, you're gonna wanna switch those knees. Now let's pretend for a moment. So you have the full push-up, you have the one knee down, you have two knees down. What if that's still too challenging for you with both knees on the ground? Here is your very next option, especially once you start to fatigue. And if you have more reps to go, you start in that modified push-up position. And then I want you to take your knees directly underneath your hips, right underneath your hips, and you go down and press up. So I'm keeping my knees right underneath my hips. This is great for people with shoulder injuries, things like that. Let's take it even a step further and go even more modified than that is a wall push-up. I'll do it on this wall, a little bit easier for you to see, but all you do is lean to the wall and push up. And of course, you can do this on a countertop as well, and you can kind of work your way down to the ground. So those are my modifications and my tips for you today. I hope that helps, and I hope that you have a fantastic workout.